you are not alone in this struggle. We're all going through it together right now. But, you will find hope if you get involved. This is a people's fight. It's going to take the people to fight it.
Just putting that emphasis on how important it is that we take action, and I guess it just kind of inspired me to also take action. And that was the thing that had me solidified, yep, Jackson is the person I want to vote for, the person I want to see in office and help get in office.
There is light at the end of the tunnel, and the light looks a lot like the people around you. You just got to get people involved, you got to get involved, and we will create that brighter future for everybody.
My name is Chelsea McDonald. I'm the campaign manager of the Jackson Franklin Campaign for Congress. I'm very proud to be doing this role. I am very strict when it comes to the people that I support who are running for office. I don't take this lightly. I take it very seriously. These are the people who want to represent not only me, but my neighbors, my community, the people that I care for day in and day out. It makes me very happy to see all of you here because it's incredibly important to hold our elected officials and our candidates to high standards, to ask the questions. Sometimes they're questions that maybe they don't want to be asked. So we welcome you here today. We welcome you to ask questions, ask the tough questions. Jackson's here to answer them, and I'm really excited to turn it over to him. Jackson Franklin, everybody.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Jackson Franklin. I just want to say thank you all for taking the time out of your Sunday to come out here. We greatly appreciate it. It is 2025. It's an off year before a midterm election. They're going to say, there's people out there say oh, we're too early to get involved. Maybe you got to wait to get involved to pay attention. Maybe you got to wait till a 2028 presidential year to start paying attention when things really pick up. What do you guys think about that? No. Fascism is here right now. It's always the time to get involved. And I understand the thought of why people get shaken up possibly. We're going against the most powerful man on the planet, backed by the richest people on the planet. They have control of the White House, the Senate, the House, most governors, most state legislators, and we got to ask ourselves, who are we to stand up against all of that? But then I just got to remind you guys, as a history nerd, I'd say, we got to remind ourselves where we are coming from, the people that came before us. In 1776, we fought back against the largest empire in the history of the planet at that point, all in order to say no more kings. All right? Almost 90 years later, we fought back against the armies of the Confederacy. 25,000 Hoosiers died for the message and the values that no one should be living under tyranny. All right? In Indianapolis, our capital, there's a great statue right there in the middle of the circle, the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. And on top of that, there is Lady Victory, a beacon of freedom and liberty. And she points her sword downwards. All right, you guys can see out the shirts what they look like, of course. She points her sword downwards, saying, I don't want to fight again. I don't want to raise the sword again, but I will, if called upon to fight for justice and liberty once more. And I tell you now, we are being called to fight for justice and liberty right now. They're coming after the rights that people have fought and died for all throughout the history of this country. And what it may seem like we are looking up at a mountain right now. And we are. But at the start of the civil rights movement, they thought the same thing. And they got it done. At the start of the women's suffrage movement, they looked at that, they fought, and they got it done. So from whether you're a revolutionary from 1776 or in 2025, or if you're a soldier in the Union Army back in the Civil War fighting to end slavery, if you're one of the brave suffragettes that fought for women's right to vote, if there were union workers that could fight for such things as basic as the weekend, they could fight their fight. It is time to fight our fight, and we're going to give them hell. All these people were fighting to strive for a government that represents all of us. A brighter future is possible. But you look around at the government and how it's working right now. Do you guys think it works for us, the working class?
No.
No, it does not. See, when we ask for something, it's every process, every rock, and hurdle in the way to get our congresspeople, our politicians to do what we want to say, right? But when the billionaires want to get their stuff done, when the lobbyists want to get their way, it's never more than one phone call, and as fast as the politicians can write the damn bill, it gets done as soon as possible. That is not democracy. That is an oligarchy. That is corruption. That's why I'm proud to say that this campaign is a grassroots campaign. We will never take any corporate lobby money, no super PACs, and that's exactly why this campaign is the direct continuation of the political revolution set off by Bernie Sanders. All throughout the history of our country up to now, we are fighting to create a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Together, we will create a system that represents all of us, not just the top 1%. We will create a system that places people over profits. Thank you guys very much. Now, get to the part we're all here today. I want to hear from you guys. We also have a live stream, so maybe if we get questions online, could answer those as well, and make sure you fill out the forums if you want to do it anonymously. So without further ado, let's open up. Just raise your hand, I'll hand you the mic, and you can speak into that. So any questions?
I hear what you're saying, and I believe in what you say. I hear what you're saying, and I believe in what you say. How? I want to know how. What are you going to do?
Right.
How are you going to change it?
That's a great question. How are we going to make a system that truly represents all of us? And one of the key pillars of the policy platforms that this campaign is trying to accomplish is having sweeping election reform. So what we need to do to get rid of the corporate lobby interest, to have a system of, by, and for the people, is we need to ban super PACs. Ban super PACs. And we need to pass the For the People Act. All this gerrymandering, the rigging that's going on across the country, this actually all came up for a vote back in 2023, and it fell down partisan lines. All the Democrats voted to have our lines, districts being decided upon by nonpartisan boards, and all the Republicans said no, the politicians get to decide their own maps. So we need to pass legislation nationwide, put it in the Constitution, stamp it, and put it away in a box forever. Democracy is not up for debate. All right? Here's, go ahead and pick it.
How you doing? What you're saying is great. I've been kind of a subscriber to the Bernie Sanders method since 2014, and it's great. There's lots of good things there. However, the halls of Congress right now is very tied up. You know what I'm saying? Who did Donald Trump call to get the districts redrawn in Texas? He called the governor. He called the legislature. He's not calling you guys. He's not calling the Congress people. Congress is just there for show now. He's not even following their rules. He's not even following their budget. He's spending whatever he wants when he wants. He is effectively our Lord and Savior Emperor. And that's great, and I hope you do get elected, and I will support you, till my dying breath to get you in there. However, we also have to think about local, state, local, we mayors, city council, county council, state legislators, state senators. We need to start flushing that toilet too, because we can't get Washington fixed until we get Indianapolis fixed.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. That was an amazing statement. So, yeah, Indiana, we have a long way to go as far as our state house and our governor is concerned. We have to run candidates. Like last election, out of 100 state house positions, 30 of them went unopposed. Republicans, as they won their primary, and they just floated in there. Most of these districts down south. Now, I am aware that we are quite gerrymandered in Indiana. Actually, one of the worst as far as the state level is concerned. But we need to inspire people and inspire movements to get involved and run these positions. These fascists can't just run unopposed. We have to have a counter-narrative and a counter-movement to oppose them on every front. Now, Indiana ranks 50th out of voter turnout. last place. Now, if you look at things like 2008, where Obama actually won this state, we won the state legislature, how did he do that? Well, he had a populist message that appealed to working class people. Now, to your point, like to the states, just ceding all their power to Trump, well, it's because we need to build up a Democratic Party that actually is worth a damn, right? We need a party that builds up movements, that actually listen to workers, that says no to corporate greed and the corporate donors. We need a grassroots working class party. Indiana, thank you. It is a choice on our party leadership, both in the state and up nationally at the DNC. The Democrats could easily say, if you're a Democrat, you're running for office, you will not take corporate lobby money. But time and time again, they keep on voting internally that they will choose to, we got to outsell ourselves out at the Republicans. Well, that hole's not getting deeper than the Republicans. You're not going to beat them by selling out more than them. All right, the only way we will win in Indiana and across the country is, as I said, we will have to have a working class vision for the future. We will have to have that grassroots vision, grassroots candidates that will stand up for the people and not the billionaire oligarchs that are running this country to the ground. And I think there is hope. Indiana is the blue state of the future. And I'm not just saying that. I truly believe it. I believe that the 5th district here will flip if, once we get up to the general. But it's only going to do that on this campaign. We're the only grassroots campaign. You look at happen like years past, we keep on having people not focused on policy, not how they're going to make our lives better. They're just running to fill a spot, and they don't have a vision. Well, you must have a vision. Every one of us must get involved. And at that moment, Indiana will turn blue, this country will seek justice, and we will get to the place that we all are designing for, we all deserve.
Yes, this kind of leads up to my question. You did mention what a poor voter turnout. How do you propose to reach these people? Obviously, we here in this room, we're very interested and involved, but there are so many people, they don't care, they're indifferent or wherever. How do you plan to get them on board?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So what this campaign has been doing up to this point, what we will continue to do, is be out in the community. I'm bouncing everywhere like a ping pong ball. All right? So go into the community, go into where they are. All right? So, I'm going to say this probably 1,000 more times, guys. We're a grassroots campaign. We rely on people power. Now, as Rosa Sparks is going to call up her millionaire buddies, and she's going to blast ads all across this whole district, and even maybe a little outside of it, we are going to focus on the interpersonal relationship, canvassing the people, going to the community, and asking for their support, and telling them, not only just listening to their views on like, hey, this is why your perspective is in line with our perspective on how we create a better America, but also saying, like, just proposing that vision. So I've actually had a lot of conservatives actually say, I've never voted for a Democrat a day in my life. But I like what you're saying, because guess what? They like grassroots messaging, they like populism. And the way we get the conservative, they talked about a lot in 2024 about getting the swing voter. That's why, you see Kamala Harris out there with Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, and all them. The way we're going to get the swing voter is by hooking them with an economic populist message. By telling them, I'm fighting not just for our health care, I'm fighting for your health care too. I'm not just fighting to raise our wages, I'm fighting to give you a raise in wage. Not just a living wage, but a comfortable wage. I think that they have a right to join a union. Everyone has the right to join a union. And when you tell the Republicans, even like libertarians or independents, when you tell them that, they're like, oh, this person's actually fighting against the system and trying to represent the little guy, that's when you'll start to see them get involved. We're going to go everywhere. No one is going to outmatch this campaign's ground game. All right, so with that message, with our passion, because if we lose these coming elections, people will die. Hundreds of thousands of Americans will die due to lack of health care, thanks to that big billionaire bill, as I say. 17 million people are getting their health care cut. Their Medicaid, their food stamps, their student loans. When we explain it to them like that, like, hey, I don't need you to admit that you were wrong. I need you to admit that you were lied to. All right? He said he was the pro-peace candidate. But here we are on the 5th boat bombing in Venezuela. We bombed Iran, a country that didn't attack us. Why did we do that? I wonder if it had anything to do with the AIPAC lobby, lobbying our politicians to, take out their adversaries. I wonder if it has anything to do with oil, So we need to stand up by all cost and stand up on a populist messaging. That's how we're going to get people out there to vote for us, and that's how we're going to flip the 5th district and districts all across the country.
Hi, thank you for everything that you're doing. I work for a climate organization called Third Act, and the specific chapter that I work for is Third Act Union. So our goal is to help people draw the parallels between climate change and union organizing, the labor movement and the climate movement. So as you, I'm sure, are very well aware, union busting is at an all-time high. In the last statement that you made, you were saying everybody has a right to join a union. So I wanted to ask you to elaborate more on that. How do you feel the labor movement and union organizing fits into the fight against fascism, and what is your plan for uplifting these causes?
Right, yeah, great point. Great point. So yeah, I think everyone does have the right to join a union. And on that point, just talking about unions, if democracy was how we got rid of the king, the way we're going to get rid of the billionaires is by having democracy in the workplace. All right? And it's more equitable. We don't live in a meritocracy. Sorry, the American dream was a lie. It was a dream. All right? When millionaires and more so billionaires, they could just inherit all their wealth and have more wealth. The wealth disparity right now is worse right now in 2025 America than it was in pre-revolutionary France. All right? They did not work 1,000 times, more than that, billions of times harder than all of us. I promise you that. So what we need to do is have more say in the workplace. And the CEO, if we had a democracy in the workplace, if the CEO wanted to sell our jobs out, send our jobs overseas, give himself another bonus, they're going to have to put that up to a vote. The people, the workers who actually produce labor, right? They're going to have a say. Hey, if the boss comes up to all the workers, hey, I actually want to sell all your jobs out to Mexico. They're like, you're fired. Done. Strike one, you're out. You don't get 3 strikes, all right? So yeah, we need to continue to work with unions. We've been in contact with a lot of unions around the area, and we need to promote them, try to spread the word about joining the unions, and as well as with the state, Indiana is a right-to-work state. We need to flip the state legislature, repeal those laws, protect unions. I'm a big fan of Joe Biden's PRO Act, which expanded, labor unions all across this country and protected them. So on that note, yeah, we stand in solidarity with the unions. It's the backbone of this campaign. We will unapologetically pro-worker, pro-union. I don't care who has a different opinion than that.
I also want to say, you said, how do unions fight against fascism? I think having a community, especially in the workplace, for you to talk to like-minded individuals, and especially asking for fair wages, fair working conditions. Well, guess what the fascists are trying to take away? All of that. They're trying to take away your health care, your fair wages. So that's why unions are critical in terms of fighting back against fascism. It's having your community, having events that people that are around you are like, nah, this kind of sucks. I think we have a dissenting opinion. So that's why unions are so important in fighting against fascism.
We are going to beat them with the greatest power in the history of the planet, and that power is people power. All right? It's as John Lewis said, the power of the people is greater than the people in power, and I full-heartedly agree with that. We got a question from online, and I'm out of space for the court.
What do you plan to do to protect and expand trans rights?
Expand and protect trans rights. We need to, of course, expand and protect trans rights. We need to codify it in the Constitution that you can't be harassed at the workplace. They're rolling back all the DEI initiatives, even our very own Ball State. I'm from Muncie. I've seen it. Many people here from Ball State back there. We've seen our own universities falling back on these policies, succumbing to the authoritarianism of this regime. We need to, when you give the fascists an inch, they take a mile. We need to stand up at every single way and every single cost. There's a great poem. It goes, first they came for the socialist, but I was not a socialist, so I did not say anything. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I was not a trade unionist, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for the Jews, but I was not Jewish, so I didn't say anything. And then when they finally came for me, there was no one left to stand up for me, and it was silence. We need to make that, in the 2025 version, we need to make that poem short. First, they came for the immigrants, or the trans people. And we all stood up and we said, hell no. We will stand back and fight back by any means necessary. It's just getting involved. And join movements, find community, build the community, and we need to have legislative progress on that front to protect voting rights. The people who are incriminating trans people, or firing them, they need to be held accountable after all this. The blatant fascism being seen by our institutions all across this country at every level, they're going to be held accountable. And when we gain power back in 2028, for the presidency that is, we need to drive that bus like we stole it. All right? We need to hold people accountable. We need to, as well as other things, as well as the genocide going on in Palestine, the atrocious acts being committed over there. We need to have the new Nuremberg trials that we can have justice. We can set the the course of human history straight.
Okay, we have seen rolling back Roe versus Wade. We have seen the Republicans going on about women should go back to the kitchens. I think we need to fight this tooth and nail. What do you plan to do to ensure women's rights?
Yeah. Great question. So the Republicans have time and time again, it was actually on that point about Roe versus Wade, the Democrats had power for a long time as well. So I started off talking about the Republicans, but I think we had power for a long time. Why did they not codify Roe versus Wade into the Constitution? So as I mentioned in 2028, when we have that full power, we have the presidency and the House and the Senate, we need to, we need to do everything we can to codify Roe. We need to build it back stronger, put it in the Constitution. Human rights are not on the table. We're not up here to debate human rights. We talk about trans rights, gay rights, immigrant rights, women's rights, veteran rights. They are not on the table, and these fascists can't take these away. People have died for these rights. It is a shame that our women across this country had more rights when they were born than the women who are growing up now. We need to fight back and expand justice and rights all across this country. And no matter who the Democrat is that runs for 2028, that wins, they need to codify. I don't care if they have to stack the Supreme Court and able to get human rights. Human rights, I'm not waiting for change. We are demanding change. We're not just asking for it, we're fighting for it.
Yeah, in regards to trans rights and women's rights as far as abortion goes, actually, let me pull that back just a little bit. Yeah, Leo here spoke about how they want women back in the kitchen and stuff like that. I don't know a woman in this room who could afford to be back in the kitchen right now. So when you got an economic policy to where both couples have to work, you're not going to have a woman in the kitchen. And going back to the trans and LGBT rights, what harm is it to just show somebody respect and kindness? You may not agree with, I don't agree with abortion for counter reproductive purposes. I'm lost on the word. But that's not my choice to make for someone else.
There you go.
I'm a man. I can't make that decision for myself. Who am I to make that for someone else? If you want to have an abortion, even if I disagree with it, get it. It's your choice. You're the one who has to live with the consequences. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person. But if there is a hereafter, you're going to have to answer for it. But you make the decision why you came, why you're here. It's not my place to stop you. Is a fetus a human life? Well, let fetus, wash the poo stains out of your underwear and cook your dinner and all that other stuff for no pay and no respect. So you treat the woman as if they're a human being. Stop treating them like they're just a carrier for a potential human being.
Tired of living in the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, tired of living through the Handmaid's Tale. On that point, you mentioned the rise of costs of like groceries, for instance, and just they're hitting us from every single direction. Healthcare is going up, your pharmaceutical drugs are going up, groceries are going up, gas is going up. This is why we need to have price control, regulate. These corporations are not raising the price raising the price just because, oh, well, things are just getting more expensive now on our end. No, they're greedy corporations that want to siphon all the money from us workers and siphon it up to the top of the CEOs. So what we need to do is we need to have price regulations for that so the corporations can't keep giving away from that. And we also need to have universal basic income in this country and have a monthly allowance for people to be able to buy the necessities that they need. And we can talk about like wherever that rate is, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever it is. You can probably tie it to inflation as well, to make it mean more every month, But yeah, we need to definitely handle the groceries. Women's rights are human rights. We need to fight, as a man, I'm going to fight unapologetically for women's rights, but I don't want it to be all up to me. I think human rights should be put in a box that Congress can't touch, so, I will fight unapologetically for women's rights. I think that, what's between a woman and her doctor should stay between a woman and her doctor. But any other?
Thank you. I think one of the problems with political life in America right now is that we have an outsized view of what elections can do and what they should do. They're obviously very important to get the right people in the right places. That's why I'm here today, supporting you, of course. But the question I wanted to ask is about kind of what happens after we get the election, after we build the grassroots movement. So when you get elected off of this grassroots movement, not taking any corporate money or anything like that, how are you going to continue to engage that grassroots movement and connect these grassroots movements that you've built to pressure for more progressive change and keep the politicians that you'll be around from getting complacent and feeling like they can just let you in the club and not actually listen to your policy platform?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So yeah, as much as I love AOC, I disagree with her calling Nancy Pelosi, the person who sells like the most stocks in Congress, Mama Bear. All right, when I go to Congress, I'm not going to go there to make friends with corrupt traitors, as I like to call them. So the way we build this grassroots movement is what I like to say, connect the blue dots. All right, so this grassroots, this is a district congressional campaign. We have 6 counties in the district. All right, and every single county has a precinct level. So when we fight for all these precinct levels, there might be like hundreds of them per county. We're going to fight for every little precinct level. And they decide the county chair and who runs the county Democratic Party. So when we elect grassroots progressives, people with a true vision on rebuilding America, at the bottom up. And this campaign has done that. We have people in our campaign that want to run for PCs. We want people who run for state delegates over there. And together we're going to create a better Democratic Party that's fighting for the working class. That is the political revolution. All right? And trust me, they know we are that threat. We're coming after them at every level. So we will focus on our area of responsibility as well as helping those and others. We've been doing it. Blythe Potter running for Secretary of State, great candidate. We've been helping out. And that's not that's a statewide race. We've been helping, in Kokomo. There's a township board that we've been boosting up. In Anderson, in Delaware County, in Hamilton County. Every single level, whatever position, no matter how small or large, this campaign has been giving a helping hand in that process to build up that grassroots momentum so we can overtake one of the two corporate parties in this country, and that we could build a future that is, sustainable for all of us. Thank you.
I don't like talking to this thing. Okay, so I hear talks about meritocracy and corruption and things of this nature. And I know your opponent, Victoria Spartz, whatever her name is.
2 different people.
She is one of the original founders of the Indiana Tea Party, correct? And I do believe Republicans came into power with the creation of the Tea Party. This extremism, whatnot. And I want to know, I do have another follow-up question that kind of ties into this, but I want to know whether you believe or not that the Democratic Party, as it stands now, is ineffective. Your Hakeem Jeffries, your Chuck Schumers, your Nancy Pelosi's, what named Hakeem Jeffries to be the
Speaker of the House. Or the
Speaker.
minority.
Yeah, whatever. And there's a few things I don't agree with you on. But I do disagree with this whole you have to vote blue no matter who, because I think it defies the meaning of democracy. I'm not voting amongst party lines. I vote for what I personally believe in. I think that's what a democracy is, not tribalism, essentially. And so I want to also know what you think of, as you've discussed meritocracy, the general nepotism and the dynasty politicians, your Kennedys, your Bushes. I mean, even your potential counterpart in Indianapolis, Andre Carson, who won his largely won his seat, I do believe, from his mother, Julia Carson. Anyways, that's what I want to know. Is like, what do you think of dynasty politicians, essentially, and do you think there needs to be a counterpart to the Republican Tea Party? Perhaps like a New Deal party?
Yeah.
There we go.
Great question. No, like that's very meaningful. So, yeah, FDR. Bring FDR back. I'll take that in a second. So yeah, your first statement was, is the Democratic Party ineffective? Yes, of course it is. We just lost the last 2 elections. You know, like we forgot about a primary. Just don't have a primary all across the country. Just force a candidate on us. You know, whether you loved or hated, people felt disenfranchised by that. Our people don't respect it when you take away the Democratic Party, the undemocratic party. What are we talking about? You know, so yes, the Democratic Party has failed us for a long time. Long time. You know, like we won power in 2008. We had the supermajority in the Senate and and the House. We won in 2020, and what did that get us? You know, a couple policies, domestic policies that Trump instantly threw away the second he got in power. We need to build up long-term plans. And to your point of having, vote blue no matter who, that's why I'm in favor of ranked choice voting. We need to have a healthy democracy in this country. Open up to 4 or 5 parties. You know, so like that way people don't get complacent. People sitting on their seats for 20 years, 20 plus years, because they're just floating on name recognition. Then they're like, hey, this seat is safe because who are you going to vote for? I can be as terrible as we want to. Look at that other guy. You know, so having ranked choice voting, having a viable third parties, I'm definitely in favor of that. You know, and of course I have my critiques of the Democratic Party, and of course the corporate establishment that take large amounts of money, from corporate lobbyists, such as like Hillary Clinton, and it comes down to a lot of the divide between the Democratic Parties. Also, like, I see your shirt says healthcare is a human right, Medicare for all. You know, when you have Democrats that don't even support healthcare as a human right. I'm a paramedic. I work on the ambulance. And when people deny further levels of care because they can't afford health care, that's a crisis. That's a problem. And it ticks me off even more when I see Democratic politicians, to your point, of who don't support health care as a human right. I'm like, all right, then get out of our party. All right? So yes, we need ranked choice voting. We need, to hold those in power accountable, even amongst our own party. And what was your last question? The statement about building the Tea Party, the Democratic Tea Party against us. Yes, there's a group called Justice Democrats that is doing exactly that, promoting, it's within the Democratic Party, so there's not like, as much as you want to say like Green Party or Labor Party or, the People's Party and whatnot. It's more so like a wing of the Democratic Party to actually function and like just infiltrate in a sense. That's the more so the political revolution is taking it on from the inside and fighting for the people. You're like, hey, you guys got to get out. We mentioned Nancy Pelosi a lot in here, all right? And however much good she's done, she's had a lot of good fights. I think it's her time. And there's a person running against her that is, part of this broader grassroots movement, Psychot for Congress. And, I fully endorse that person. So, we got to get rid of these Democratic establishment elites, and we got to start representing the people. You're going to have to come up here, brother.
So first I just want to say, I really appreciate, your ability to take such a strong stance on things, that you really believe in and that the people really believe in. And that shows, the power of grassroots organizing, as you've been talking about. And just, an issue that people are really concerned about is, the genocide in Palestine. And, when people say free Palestine, you can as well, and I really appreciate that. But I just wanted, to wonder, when you're elected, what is it you will do, on the Congress floor, every day to help fight for the people of Palestine, and then what, building on, the continuing your grassroots and movement, how will you continue to support, students and community members who are also fighting for those issues?
Great question. So, two questions. How will I support Palestine once in office, and how will I support local community groups fighting for such causes back here at home once elected? So for Palestine, you guys heard me already say it. It's a genocide. The UN has declared it a genocide, but we've known that for a long time. We didn't need them to tell us. And such lobby groups I mentioned as AIPAC that have lobbied most of Congress, a majority of Congress, super majority of Congress, have been bought by AIPAC, all right? And they just do anything at the whims of a foreign government entity, all right? That's not right. So on how we actually have solutions for Palestine, how do we move forward coming after the 2026 elections? Well, I would use my position to call for UN action. All right, the president of Ireland said, if the United States is not going to do it, if Israel's not going to stop, if the local leaders are not going to stop, we need a worldwide system to liberate these oppressed people. And if that comes in the form... If that comes in the form of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, then that it is. That's first step. First step, see how long that goes. Because, in the 90s and the 80s, it was actually Reagan. All right, I hate Reagan, but I give this credit. Reagan picked up one phone call. There's a lot of action going on in Gaza and the West Bank. Reagan made one phone call. He said, you stop that, or we're going to cut off all your weapons and all your funding. Overnight, they stopped the massacre. They stopped the ethnic cleansing. And even under Reagan, come on, they stopped that. So the United States first needs to call on, hey, if you don't stop that right now, all your funding's gone, and they need it. All right? We actually pay for their universal health care. But we can't have it here at home. How are we going to pay for it? How can we pay for that, guys? How can we pay for Israel's healthcare system, but we pay the most out of the entire planet in corporate costs? It's like a corporate tax for healthcare. I'm getting off in the weeds. But yes, so boycott, divestment, sanctions. The U.S. needs to get involved. Trump's not going to do it. But Congress, we need to build such a fierce force in Congress, such an overwhelming majority in Congress that we can bypass that veto power of the president, and we need to stamp like, hey, we have power of the purse, not a penny more to the genocide terrorist state of Israel. All right, and add on top of that point, if the UN, let's say they keep going, God forbid. If the UN needs to be involved any way possible, including, I was actually deployed overseas in Kosovo. It's the Balkans, the old Yugoslavia. They committed a genocide and ethnic cleansing in Kosovo. Serbia invaded, and they tried to dispel the people from northern Kosovo, and they did. I was there just 2 years ago, and it's terrible. The house is still bombed. We were there for about 2 months, Jewel, my brother and I, and we were wondering, where are all the young people? Where it seems like there's old people and kids. Where's all the 20s, the 30s? It's because they were all dead. And now we're going to look back 20 years from now in Gaza and some places in the West Bank, and it's going to be the same story, but worse. So what we did in Kosovo is the United States, under Bill Clinton, to his credit, we went in there, they said, we're going to dismantle the Serbian war machine and make sure that no more atrocious acts of violence can be committed under the name of this ethnic cleansing. And if this is the time of our lives right now, we are witnessing history, unfortunately. So much that we have not seen this since the likes of World War II. We got to ask ourselves, if we were witnessing Hitler having the camps in Gaza, as noted in 2018 by Norman Finkelstein, he said Gaza was the largest concentration camp, open-air concentration camp in the world. It's smaller than Indiana. It's smaller than the district we are trying to vote in right now. And you have, starting off, 2.3 million people in there starving. Most of them children. Over half of are children. More than half. So we got to save these kids. And whatever the cost is, we got to do that. That's what we're willing to pay. All right, so on that point of what will I do to support local community groups back home once in power, I'll keep on using my platform as we've been doing, boosting up community groups like Ball State over there, I see Joe, Student Action for Palestine, all over this district, Kokomo for Palestine, all these different groups, and even outside of Palestine, every local group will get our continued full support from the campaign. Anyway, this campaign is a people-powered movement, all right? And we will continue to boost the people, and the people will continue to support our movement because we're all here together. We're a community. We love each other. We all want what's best for humanity and what's best for our people.
You might have to, okay, I can just yell, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Thank you all for coming out. As a Alexander resident, Anderson homeborn, thank you for coming out. And I appreciate you coming here with your platform and everything and listening to the constituents here. I, as well as many other people, are terrified of what seems to be the secret police here in America. We have ICE literally fast roping into apartment buildings here over in Chicago, 3.5 hours away from here.
300 people repelled.
300 people repelled. I wasn't even aware of that. That's even more terrifying. And as somebody who's repelled before, as an Army vet, fellow combat medic, it's not an easy exercise. That was a lot of training for that scenario. And I can say that they put a lot of effort into putting a lot of pomp and circumstance in it. They want us to be scared. But what are we going to do about it? They have so much funding by this big ugly bill that was passed. We have no way to stop it without uniting with the conservatives, unfortunately, because they do have the majority right now. So how can we appeal to people to see that the tyranny that they've been scared of and, clinging to weapons, come and take it type of mentality all these years, but we have the secret police here. How can we open their eyes to what we see so that way we can come together and fight this as Americans for the tyranny that it is? Thank you.
Great question. So how are we going to fight back against ICE and the fascists that are knocking on our neighbors' homes and abducting them? They mentioned the raid in Chicago a few nights ago, where 300 people repelled out of Black Hawk helicopters into an apartment complex, or some kind of complex, and they rounded up hundreds of people. All right, and they took children naked. They zip-tied them, put them on the pavement, and not only that. These racist fascists went so far as to segregate them by color. Black kids over there, brown people over there, white people over there. They're getting pointed left, right. Does that remind anyone of Auschwitz? Does that remind anyone of Dachau? Buchenwald? What we must do is, as you mentioned, CJ, we got to unite the people. Tyranny is not an American value. And what we are doing all across this district is building up community groups and promoting apps such as IceBlock. Download IceBlock. It sends you a ping if ICE is in the area. We got to help our brothers and sisters and non-binary friends to get involved.
Newsflash, Apple and Google have agreed to take IceBlock and all the similar apps off their platforms.
We're going to move to other platforms. Yeah, so keep an eye out, keep your ears on, listen to the community. Whatever app that we try to use to negate their terrorism, their fascism, we will have to come together. Maybe we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way, all right? Just, try to be encrypted about it. If voice in-person messages, probably best, because they're going to be starting to track down our... It's 1984. We are living through a dystopia right now. We're faced with history, but, it's times like these where, I'm proud to, we are lucky to live in this time, actually. That's kind of, I choose to view that way, because we are living in the moment of this country's greatest danger. Our democracy, our freedoms, they are facing the hour of the greatest need, and we must rise up to that responsibility. We welcome that responsibility. My grandfather fought in World War II against the fascists, all right? And they want to label, Antifa as a terrorist organization. Antifa is anti-fascist. It's not even a group. It's just any action that's anti-fascist. So what is the largest anti-fascist organization in American history? The U.S. military. All right, so when people, we protested at Camp Atterbury, we protested at the Miami Correctional Facility, they try to turn these correctional facilities, like Camp Atterbury, it was founded in 1942 to fight against the rise of fascism. And now, our leaders are trying to use these bases to uphold their fascism. We must fight back by any means necessary, and we must get the people together and get people organized to be able to make sure people are safe. If you have an immigrant friend, brother, sister, neighbor, whatever. We need to get them in the loop, get them connected to a system, a program, and if they need to hide, we need to be there for them. You know, like, we would like to say, like, what would you do in Germany during the 1930s? Take a look around. Hitler just got power, and he's on the rise. They're coming out. They're knocking on the door. All right? They're trying to invade. And, you know, I'm just trying to have a 2026 election. People are worried about 2028. Trump's going for a third term. He jokes with Zelensky saying, like, oh, well, you have a war, you know, so that you don't have an election. We'll have to look into that. But we got to be worried about 2026 as well, because, you know, it's in the authoritarianism playbook, the fascist playbook. Right before an election, let's do a war. All the young people, all of us young people, you know, Julie and I are in the Army. All right, we would be the first ones to be sent. They would, well, they're not sending us, but, like, you know what I mean? They want to send us all away to not be here to resist. But we will be resisting. That's what they don't expect. All right? And, yeah, we just got to get organized and, yeah.
So I've got a question regarding kind of Indiana policy as well as federal policy. The rise of synthetic drugs to overtly skate federal guidelines for legalization of marijuana seems to be impacting our community at an alarming rate, including things like THCA, spice, KT, things that kids now are starting to get more and more. If you've been in Anderson at all, you'll see an alarmingly growing group of gas stations which have substance use paraphernalia inside of them. What steps can you make or perceive to make within both the federal system, but also to advocate for our state house, legalization of marijuana and regulation of synthetic marijuana and additives to ensure that our safe use happens here in our community?
Great question, great question. So, quick answer to that is 3 words: legalize, tax, and regulate. All right, so when you look back at the 1930s, different reason, is when the mafias were going around in the alcohol, prohibition, right? You had all these people shooting up the streets, these mafiosos, you know, laundering, like pushing around alcohol everywhere, all right? And when they legalized it, when FDR, see how it comes back. FDR legalized it, and boom, mafia's gone, you know, because they took out their profit motive. So the way we like also take care of like these unsafe drugs, you talk about like spice, things mixed in with cannabis and all that, is we legalize it. You know, Indiana is one of like 11 states or something like that. Fact check that, but like we're able to, you know, we're losing out on taxpayer money, but most importantly, really, we're losing out on the human right for people to consume whatever they please, and people are dying because of that. You know, when we take out that profit of like the cartels, for instance, these different drug dealers, and we just say, hey, this is a right for you to have, you know, like then people, like, we're going to be saving lives. Also, I might note that we have a massively racist judicial and policing system in this country. So white and black people actually smoke cannabis at the same rate. Black people are 4 times more likely to get incarcerated for the same crime. Well, it turns out when you have all the cameras and all the watchdogs in the, you know, the black communities or other minority communities, it turns out you just catch more people. I wonder if that's on purpose. It is, right? So we need to legalize it, end the racist drug war, you know, and, you know, continue to find, you know, criminal justice reform to make a more fair society on that. So that would be how we create a safer system for all of us. Legalize tax regulation.
Okay, so this is less of a question and more of a correction. First of all, I agree with everything you say. Secondly, your concerns are extremely valid. I actually have an accredited degree from an accredited university, top 10 School of Pharmacy in medical cannabis sciences and therapeutics. I just wanted to set the record straight and say that THCA is actually the acid form of THC, which is the precursor to THC. So what happens is in the plant, you have THCA. There is no THC in the natural organic plant. And then when you decarboxylate it or light it to make the smoke, it then turns into THC. That being said, without it being legalized, there's still no regulations enforced or anything like that, so there's still largely unnatural levels of harsh chemicals and harsh metals. So gas station weed, although it is still technically weed, still can be very damaging to somebody's health. So I don't want to like say your concerns are invalid. I just wanted to set the record straight about THCA is just the precursor to THC. Sorry.
Well noted, Dave. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's good to have experts. You know, that's what the importance of community is like people can fact check and people can bring in their perspectives on all that. You know, so any other questions?
This is probably a long question, but hopefully we get a Democratic Congress back again in 26. So what we need to do is, in that case, is enact some new laws to curb Trump and the things that he's doing. For instance, we need to fix Citizens United.
Yes.
We need to fix the voting rights. We need to fix the Supreme Court. We also need to fix the fact that the executive at this point is not spending money the way that Congress has allocated it. That he should not have the power to hold money back if he were to spend it elsewhere. So what are your plans to address all of these issues?
Great question. So yeah, when Elon Musk went in there with Doge, that was very unconstitutional. You're not allowed to have someone on the front end or back end of a bill just, hey, this is my buddy, Greg, and he doesn't like the bill, so he's going to scrap it out, and then not go back down to Congress, just goes to the president. That's literally what happened. Elon was just, he looked at their bills, but like during the process of writing, and once it was passed, and he just took out stuff like, oh, actually, no funding for the Department of Education. Sorry. And then Trump passes it, right? That's unconstitutional. We need to uphold rules. We need to uphold the standards of our country. And as far as Trump goes, like how do we balance that? We need to start fighting back. You know, right now, the fascists have a majority in the House and in the Senate. So what we need to do is implement rules. We need to win, you know, most importantly, get involved and win the 2026 election. And we need to come in with such a majority that they have to listen to us. Forced to listen to us. We need to rebuild the Democratic Party for that. We need to impeach that bastard. All right? We need to get him out of office. He's not mentally fit for the office, and we need to make sure he's uphold for the people.
We need to keep our politicians accountable, right? Right now we have rubber stamps, but what we need is checks and balances. He's not listening to Congress, but we need to have, like, corruption. You mentioned like the corruption of the Democratic Party. We need to hold both parties accountable. We need to have, like, because in my mind, I view like corporate money, AIPAC money, particularly like foreign lobby money, you know, especially atrocious. But like these guys, like corruption is treason. We need to get money out of politics. We need to reverse the Citizens United. We need to keep people accountable. And so we need to have a government that actually has checks and balances instead of rubber stamps.
That's why I'm in favor of public funding of elections.
Yes.
Right? So, you know, everyone would get a voucher. Thank you. So, you pay taxes. The rich pay a lot more taxes if we get this. But, you know, everyone pays taxes, and then everyone gets a voucher. You know, we can say wherever that is, you know, like $400, $500, $600 maybe. You know, like, and like, hey, I want to have, instead of them competing, like I wouldn't have to be asking all you good people, like, hey, please donate to my campaign. It would just be like, you decide, like, I want $100 to go to the president, $50 go to my state senator, $50 to my House of Representatives candidate, and like down about, like, however you want to decide it. But it's a voucher coming out of your taxpayer money, and no one has to even worry about like coming out and like asking for your money you just worked for. Like, hey, you just got done with the job, give me that. It's like, no. I can work for your money. It becomes more of a popularity contest for your money. The more like ads you would see of that candidate, like, well, a lot of people like them because guess what? You know, people are giving them money willingly. Like, you're allowed this much per election, before and after the primary. You know, going into the general. So that's how we're doing that. That'd be a great. We have like the best democracy. We got rid of all the corrupt, you know, political finance regulations. We have legalized bribery in this country. You know, according to a 2013 Princeton study, public opinion has a, quote, near zero, non-significant impact about how our lawmakers decide their policy. But when the rich, when the lobbyists, when they want something, it becomes significantly more. Like, they just get it, right? You know, if there's 100% of lobbyists and billionaires that want a policy, it's like a 90% chance that it gets passed. If all of us, everywhere in the whole state, in the whole country, if 100% of the people who are in the 99%, I'll say 99% of the country, wants a policy, it's about a 30% chance. Because it doesn't matter what we think. The politicians, they only listen to their billionaires, their corporate donors. We got to make them listen to us. And that's what this movement's about. We're saying we're not waiting any longer. They tell us, wait our turn, get in line, they give us crumbs. Meanwhile, the rich are having full feast. You know, they get anything they want, and it's time we cut their greed off. You had a question?
And of course, hey, thank you for your service. I'm a veteran. You know, there's a handful of us in here. One thing that's kind of taken a back seat has been Veterans Affairs. I've been a staunch advocate for the Richard Starr Act, and your brother says he's never heard of it. I'm pretty sure you probably haven't either. I was wounded in Iraq in 2007 from a chlorine gas bomb, and it screwed my lungs up, and they put me out of medical retirement. I had 15 years in, and I had full intention of staying the full 20. Now, I'm on 100% VA disability, and then I get something called CRSC, which is Combat-Related Special Compensation, which is an extra $400. But what I'm not getting is any portion of my retirement that I put into. 15 years is a long time to invest in a career. And there's a bill that's been tossed around. This is a bipartisan bill co-authored by a Republican and Democrat. It's endorsed by all the VSOs. It's endorsed by Wounded Warriors. It's endorsed by everybody except for the people making the final votes. It's called the Major Richard Starr Act. And it's been floating through Congress like a ghost. And I think this year it got put into the NDAA, which of course nothing's being passed at the moment. But it's still, but I'm trying to give out, let people know, because this affects 56,000 veterans, including myself. But also, I also believe that I think the way we fight wars nowadays isn't like practical and cost effective. I think we have the highest military budget in our history, and I think it's ridiculous. I think we have, what, 14 aircraft carriers? We need 5. And mothball the others. But yeah, we do need to cut our budget. In fact, I would say take some of that budget and put it back toward Veterans Affairs. DOJ tried getting rid of 80,000 workers at the VA, which is ridiculous. We should be adding more VA hospitals and doctor's offices around the area. And if that's not possible, we need to step up the vouchers so veterans can get care outside the system. But a hybrid system, I think Bernie Sanders was all about that too, of getting veterans to the doctor and getting treated, because too many veterans are dying from preventable diseases. Too many veterans are homeless when they don't need to be. And part of it is our culture. You know, a lot of people don't realize this. We as veterans, we are literally tortured and programmed to believe we are okay at all times. Never ask for help. You don't understand. We are tortured into believing that. So you can't unprogram that programming by, attaboy, come get your free meal on Veterans Day. It takes a lot to deprogram that. Like I said, we were tortured by the United States government into believing that we are always okay. So, I mean, once we get past that, we need to start putting veterans back first, and not just as a political speech or a campaign slogan. That's all Victoria Sparks is. She's all about platitudes. I'm for good things and against bad things, but she isn't about making positive change for veterans. She didn't even know that the Richard Starr Act exists.
That's a great point. Yeah. Thank you. During the time of the big billionaire bill, there was already a vacancy at the VA of 55,000 jobs, or more. And then they wanted to cut it further by a further 83,000 jobs. And to your point, Victoria Sparks voted for that bill. She also voted against the PACT Act, which twice, which was to give veterans that were exposed to toxic burn pits overseas, in Iraq and Afghanistan, the health care they deserved once they got home. Congress sent them to war. And when they went to war, they got injured by things that Congress made happen. And when they come back, we can't even take care of them. If we can't take care of those that take care of us, then what kind of fucking country are we? I definitely support that bill. I do not know if this thing will reach.
I volunteer at the VA. The last 6 months has been, no one knows what the right foot or the left foot is doing. I've been there since 2022 when I ended up leaving school. My goal is to work for the VA. I moved here for my doctorate degree in occupational therapy, and I want to work with mental health, which is what my bachelor's is in. But what they're doing over there is just, it's a disgrace, and we should all feel, people who voted for him should feel ashamed of what they are doing to the people that died mentally and physically for them, because you come home but you're not all there. Parts of you die. So, and if that is our thank you, it's absolutely disgusting. And what he was saying, that there are other ways to have a war, I've been told for a long time now that World War III is going to be the cyber war. You can shut down an entire country online. You can shut down an entire banking system. And y'all are wanting to still kill people? It's not about war. It's about being evil and wanting power and put the fear in people. Because if you put the fear in people, you can control the masses.
Thank you. You know, 22 veterans commit suicide every day. You know, I know, if you're in the military, as we are, I just know you, 15 years in service, I know you have friends that committed suicide. We have friends that committed suicide. Yeah, I have 3, all right? So mental health care is a human right, and that's why I support mental health care for all, especially veterans. The fact that they are cutting jobs like psychiatrists and therapists out of the VA is immoral and abhorrent. And that's why we got to fight back. They're coming after every single level. They're attacking us on all fronts.
I just had one more thing to add. When you are in the military, my ex-boyfriend was military. When you're in the military, you get therapy. You have to speak to a psychiatrist with your clearance level. If you have things that are still blacked out and that you did or that are still blacked out and it's not 10 years out, you can't talk about it. And I understand that, but there needs to be more mental health care. And to tell a soldier, and this is another point I had made to make, you're sending them to war at 18 with childhood trauma. I didn't get to join the military because I started doing therapy at 16 because of childhood trauma. So I told him I'd take care of them when you send them home, because you're sending them home with war trauma and childhood trauma. If you don't let them get therapy before they go to war, they're going to come back twice as broken.
Thank you. I saw a question back there. Yep, go ahead.
Comment and then a question. First off, we really need you in Congress. We've had Victoria Spartz there forever. And if you guys have ever been to the town hall, she talks at us here and not with us. You know, she loves to hang out in Carmel and Zionsville, you know, where the, you know, fancy houses with fountains are. But, you know, it's time to get somebody in there for us, because we haven't had a damn bit of representation for years. And, you know, she doesn't have respect for us. Well, let's vote and let's teach her some respect.
They're accountable.
I'm sorry I was late. I was actually taking care of a veteran who he really supports you. My father, who's almost 90 years old, Korean conflict veteran, and you know, he sends his regards. My question is, I guess real quick, to donate to your campaign. All I have is a debit card. Is that possible to do online?
Yeah, so you can go to jacksonfranklinforcongress.com. And front page is a donate button, sends you a QR, or sends you over to the Act Blue page, you know, and you can be one of many donors. Yeah. Oh, there we go. George is on the move. Yeah, there's also cards up there with QR codes if you don't want to type. It's a long name, I know. Jackson Franklin for Congress is a lot of letters, but yeah, over there too. I think I saw a hand. I don't remember where it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Would you be willing at this time to make a pledge to ensure that the VA or that the defense budget actually can pass an audit in all branches of the military?
Of course, 100%, yes. Of course. I think it's been 5 times now?
The main Pennsylvania hasn't passed it in 10.
9? Yeah.
They're the ones with the aircraft carriers, so. I mean,
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a $758 billion budget for the military, of which I know several line officers who were like, we don't need it. But Connex boxes full in Afghanistan of dog toys for the dog handlers, because if you don't use it, you lose it. How can we ensure that we can hold people accountable to a budget while ensuring that that money that we can save can be better used for medical treatment for our VA, or for our VA benefit plan?
Great question. Yeah, no, excellent question. So, I'm also in favor of, how do we make sure that the Pentagon can pass an audit, of course, and how can we make sure that we're using the money wisely? And we keep on, I think they added in $1 billion, the military budget has passed $1 trillion. We pay, obviously we have the largest military in the history of the planet, all right? Not only that, but we also pay more than the next 12 countries combined. What is that for? Do you ever wonder if, that money's not going to us. It's not going to me. It's not going to my brother. It's the military industrial complex. It's the revolving door of corruption. And, that's kind of like the key pillar of this, this campaign, is because why it's so important for grassroots campaigns is because when people are bought by Raytheon, Halliburton, Boeing, all these different industries, weapons manufacturers, Colt, then they, go around and turn on, like, oh, we need to increase the military budget. But yet again, it's not going to a raise to like your E4s or E5, your sergeants, staff sergeants, and all that. It's going to these big, large, multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies, weapon companies, and they have a profit incentive to send us to war. They want to send me to war. They want to send all you young people off to war because that makes money. Oh, look, we need more bombs. We need more missiles. Give me another Hellfire missile to bomb some tent in Afghanistan or Iraq or Libya or Somalia or Syria or Lebanon or Gaza or the West Bank or, one of the plethora of places we're bombing. All right, so I would say that we should not increase the military budget until I'm also in favor of just cutting that thing in half. That is absurdly huge. But also on top of that, making it to where they're not going to ever get an increase in budget until we can account for every last penny of that budget.
I'm assuming this is probably the last question.
2 more questions.
So, he was just talking about how Victoriasburg speaks to people around here, speaks at them, not to them. Yeah. But I do think the 5th Congressional District is the wealthiest district in Indiana due to Carmel and Fishers. And I want to know how, I do know you're from Muncie, so you'll probably get the vote for Muncie, just a Muncie native. But how do you expect to earn the votes from Fishers in these richer districts and the wealthier districts versus somebody like Victoria Sparks? I think Micah Beckwith also lives in Noblesville, if I remember right. So how do you expect to convince people who often, it's not from what I understand, race doesn't really matter in politics. It's more about wealth. Your wealth dictates what you vote about. You could be a black guy, but if you're rich, you'll vote for Republican, and so on and so forth, usually. So I want to know, how do you expect to convince these wealthier people to, give up a few dollars, I suppose?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Yeah. So, yeah, Hamilton County is the most wealthy county in the whole state. But also, if Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos was dropped right in this room with us, we'd be the wealthiest building in this whole state. But guess what? The average wealth between me and him would be, I don't know, like $23 billion. Trust me, I don't got that much. So, but yes, the Hamilton County is the wealthiest county in the state. But guess what? That's because there's a lot of, CEOs. They live there. They work in India and they move up there, right, to get out of the city. But there's still overwhelmingly more workers that need a vision for the future that represents them. All right, and even if they are more wealthy, well off to do, right? They still want health care. They don't want to send their children off to die overseas. They want to have these basic things. When ICE is knocking on their door and, their neighbors, and women's rights are under attack, trans rights are under attack, immigrants, everything is on fire right now. Our campaign policies, we still have something to offer them. There's still a home for them as well. It's never too late to be a born-again progressive, as I say. You know, you can fight for justice, you can fight for meaningful change for the future, and we still, you know, aim to get their support. You know, like, we're unapologetically standing for justice. You know, we're not going to compromise on human rights. If the choice is between fascism and democracy, I'm not compromised, oh, maybe just a little bit of fascism to get that, like, one vote over there in Hamilton Carmel. No, we are standing on the side of democracy, you know, unapologetically. So, yes, we will win Hamilton County. You know, and, you know, Hamilton County, out of all the counties in the district, has been shifting more blue than any other county in the district. You know, it was actually supposed, according to the numbers, supposed to go blue last time. We just have to have, you know, that's what this campaign is trying to do, is trying to energize that base, give them something to vote for, and not just something to vote against. You know, that you have a policy that supports you, but also you know, look at the other side. Look at the big billionaire bill. They took away your health care. So one last question, all the way in the back.
Everybody here has asked what you're going to do for us. What can we do for you?
You can get, yeah, great question. And I appreciate that. So there's a sign-up sheet over there, and there is how you get involved, how you stay in touch with the campaign, sign up for our newsletter. Please sign up, your email, your phone number, or go to JacksonFranklinForCongress.com. There's cards, there's pens, and, you know, text that number. I will see that text. I will see that email. I am part of that process. So please get involved. This is a people movement, and, you know, we will get it done. If all of us come together, there's nothing that we can't do. Nothing can stop us if we come together. George?
Would it help if they donated like $10 a month or one-time $10 or donate anything?
Reoccurring donations help us a lot because then we can kind of calculate it. It's on the website. It'll tell you, like, oh, do you want to reoccur? So, you know, there's a lot of buttons. When you get to the Act Blue page, there's, you know, Bernie Sanders, 2016, his average donation was $27. So feel free to hit that $27. We have to call it the Bernie button. All right, so and you can hit that $27 button, or you can donate to Jackson, or you can donate to Frank. So that would help us very much. You know, getting involved, donating, it helps a lot more. It means more for us than it means to other campaigns. This is the it's the most flippable district out of the whole state. So our fight matters, and it will reverberate across the whole country. You know, this is life and death. That's why we all need to get involved, and I really appreciate it. Maybe just one more question? One more question. Yes?
I signed the volunteer thing. I need help. I need like a pamphlet, a bulletin that says issue A, issue B, issue C. I ran into somebody at the car repair shop, and he said he hasn't watched the news because he's not interested. And I couldn't think of the first thing to say, so I smiled and walked out, and I'm ashamed.
Yeah.
Can you help people like me?
Yes, we can definitely help you with that. You know, and like we're also doing canvassing training, so like even just watching that training of like, first you listen to them and you say, all right, well your problem is healthcare, for instance, or whatever it is. And you're like, well, this is how we're going to help you. You know, this is how this will impact you. This is why it's happening. And, you know, so yeah, you got to listen to people. You know, deep canvassing, and we can definitely help that. And we also have, like, there's door hangers, there's cards. So, like, if you do not know exactly how to say or what to say, we will help you throughout that process. And if you want to get involved in the campaign, we will have a bulletin list, like, here's this role, we need the position, you know, we need your help. You know, as we say, you can offer three things. You know, if you're ever curious about how to get involved, you can give us time, so volunteering, canvassing, door knocking, telling your friends and family. This is relational organizing. You know someone that wants to help. There's a barrier between us. You got to get involved. So time, your talent. If you have a special skill, you're great with social media, you're good at making cookies for the campaign, I would take it. All right? Your time, your talent, whatever the skill is, you know what it is, or your treasure. You know, you can donate, and it will go a long ways. It'll go a long ways. So thank you. We will definitely help with that. We will help anybody here who's curious about how to get involved in this process. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you guys. And thank you guys so much for coming. I want to come up again and remind you, if you have any follow-up questions or you want to talk to Jackson about something that maybe we didn't bring up today, you can still fill out a card, put your name and your email address on it, and Jackson will personally reach out to you and answer your questions. And to just reiterate, on the campaign, everybody has a role to play. Everybody has a role to play. Jackson brought up relational organizing. We all have people in our lives that we love. This isn't just about us winning, right? This isn't a game. This is about us helping people, saving lives, changing lives. Let people know that there is an option, that we have somebody that we can vote for, that we're not going to walk away with a stomachache. We're not going to say, man, I gave up on some of my morals and my values just so I can have the better person. Jackson has shown up in the community time and time again. He has shown up in campaigns time and time again. We are tired of candidates that show up in an election year and pretend that they're here to save us.
Damn straight.
Jackson takes action. We have a joke, we call him Action Jackson, a nickname that was given to him as a child. So I want to thank you again for being here. I want to thank Jackson for once again showing up authentically and answering questions and not saying things that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I want to thank you for coming and asking questions. Not all of these questions are easy to answer. This goes really, really deep. So thank you. Reach out to the campaign. We are here for you just as much as you're here for us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'll hang around. You were the last person to leave this place. I felt amazing about this town hall, filled with great people, with amazing, intelligent questions. You know, people wondering our response to ICE, people wondering about healthcare costs, people wondering about the military budget and the Pentagon not passing an audit, and many other questions, and campaign finance reform. And we just stayed committed to the grassroots vision that we have for this country and how we're going to lift up working class people and how we can materially benefit people in their lives and their families, and how we're going to lift them up, and how we're going to change, flip this district and get Democratic majority in the House of Representatives come 2026. They won't be able to win unless they cheat and steal the elections. You know, they can't just take away all of our health care, our food stamps, our student loans, and bomb people overseas without a huge backlash from the people. That's why they have to redistrict, because they're scared of losing. They see what this campaign is doing and the energy we're gathering, and that's why they're trying to redraw the map. But no matter what, no matter where they draw us, we will be fighting for working class Hoosiers, and we will be fighting for a government that places people over profits.